In a small town nestled between rolling hills, there was a teacher named Miss Eleanor Brooke. She was well known for her kind heart and infectious enthusiasm, which filled the classroom with laughter and learning. Eleanor loved her students dearly, pouring her energy into their futures. She would often stay late, helping them with homework or planning exciting lessons that made history come alive. Eleanor had always dreamed of making a difference in children's lives. However, everything changed one cloudy morning when tragedy struck. Her husband, John, who was also her best friend, passed away unexpectedly. The world felt dark and heavy after his loss. The laughter that once echoed through their home turned into silence, leaving Eleanor feeling hollow and lost. Days turned into weeks, and despite the support from friends and family, she felt the weight of loneliness closing in on her. Teaching became a bittersweet experience. While she loved her students, each joyful laugh reminded her of what she had lost. In an attempt to escape the grief surrounding her life, Eleanor decided it was time for a change, a drastic one. She packed her belongings and said goodbye to the familiar sights of her town. Seeking solace in nature and space to breathe, she moved to a ghost town where time seemed to have stopped. The ghost town was once bustling with life but now lay abandoned, with dusty streets and crumbling buildings that whispered stories of the past. It was here that she hoped to find herself again. As she arrived at the ghost town, Eleanor felt both excited and apprehensive. The air was heavy with dust, and the only sound was the faint whisper of the wind as it rustled through the cracked windows of old buildings. She saw the remnants of homes and stores that had long been forgotten, but to her, they were filled with possibilities. Perhaps this place could become a new beginning. Choosing one of the sturdier buildings as her new home, Eleanor got to work unpacking her belongings. She imagined transforming this deserted place into something vibrant once again. Even though it was just her for now, she envisioned welcoming students into a classroom filled with color and creativity. Weeks passed as Eleanor settled into her new life. She found herself exploring the surroundings during long walks in search of inspiration, admiring the beauty of rugged cliffs that surrounded the town. But as much as she tried to immerse herself in nature's calmness, loneliness shadowed her every step. Every day felt repetitive. Mornings would drift into evenings with nothing but quietness filling her room. Although Eleanor made daily plans for lessons and activities, they remained just dreams without any students to share them with. Each night she sat by the fireplace, reading old stories about great teachers who inspired countless young minds. On one such evening, while sitting by the flickering firelight, Eleanor heard a soft tapping at her door. Startled yet curious, she opened it cautiously. Standing outside was a tall man cloaked in traditional Navajo attire. He introduced himself as Taji, a warrior from a nearby tribe who traveled between trading posts and villages. Their meeting would mark a turning point in Eleanor's life. Taji possessed a quiet strength about him and an understanding look in his eyes that resonated with her grief. He embodied wisdom gained from years spent walking the rugged lands and listening to its stories. As they began talking that chilly night, Eleanor shared tales of her past, her deep love for teaching and the heartache she had endured after losing John. Taji listened intently and shared his own experiences, the challenges faced by his community and how he valued education as a bridge toward a better future. In that conversation sparked something unexpected, a connection built on shared experiences and dreams yet unfulfilled. For the first time in months, Eleanor felt hope flickering within her like a small flame igniting in darkness. Taji's presence reminded her of what truly mattered. Education could bring light not just to children's lives but also to her own recovering heart. Little did they know then that together they would carve out a new chapter not just for themselves but for many others awaiting their own stories to unfold in this ghost town turned sanctuary of hope. Eleanor packed her belongings with a heavy heart, feeling the weight of memories in every item she touched. Each book, each framed photo of happier days, felt like a reminder of the life she had lost. The thought of leaving her old town was daunting, but it also filled her with a flicker of hope. Perhaps this move would allow her to rediscover herself and the joy of teaching. The drive to the ghost town felt long and winding. As she traveled, the landscape changed from familiar streets and friendly faces to vast stretches of open land dotted with sagebrush and the occasional cactus. The sky was a brilliant blue that seemed endless, yet beneath it lay an emptiness that mirrored Eleanor's own feelings. She gazed out the window, trying to envision what her new life would look like in this desolate place. After hours on the road, Eleanor finally arrived at the ghost town. As she turned down the main street, a sense of eeriness washed over her. The buildings stood silent and still, as if waiting for someone to breathe life back into them. The sun cast long shadows across the cracked sidewalks, and she could almost hear echoes of laughter and chatter that once filled the air. But now, there was only silence, the heavy silence that reminded her how different everything was. Choosing a sturdy-looking building that once served as a general store, Eleanor stepped inside. Dust danced in the sunlight streaming through broken windows, and cobwebs hung in the corners like forgotten memories. She took a deep breath, inhaling the musty scent of neglect mixed with an undercurrent of potential. This could be her canvas, she could transform this empty space into something vibrant again. As days turned into weeks, Eleanor settled into her new routine. Mornings were spent exploring the ghost town and its surroundings. She wandered through remnants of old homes and imagined families living there years ago, children playing in yards, mothers calling their kids for dinner, fathers returning home with stories to tell. In these moments, however fleeting, she felt a connection to those who had come before her. But loneliness soon crept back in like an unwelcome visitor. The days seemed to stretch endlessly with no one to share them with. Though she tried to keep herself busy by planning lessons and organizing her thoughts on how to revive education in this deserted place, her heart felt heavy with absence. Without students to fill those lessons with laughter and curiosity, they remained just dreams, a hollow echo of what could be. Every evening after long walks through the barren streets or hikes up nearby hillsides, Eleanor would return to her building as twilight set in. The soft glow of oil lamps illuminated her space as she sat by the fireplace reading books about teaching and learning from great educators who had inspired generations. Each story stirred something within her, a reminder of why she loved teaching so much. One particularly quiet night, Eleanor sat staring at the flickering flames when a thought struck her: what if she could bring children back to this town? What if this once abandoned place could become a haven for learning? This spark ignited a fire within her heart, a desire not only to rebuild herself but also to create a community around education. Determined to take action, Eleanor began sketching plans for a schoolhouse in one corner of the ghost town. She envisioned colorful walls filled with artwork created by children who would someday find their way here, students eager to learn about history, science, art, and each other. With each passing day, she grew more excited about bringing this dream to life. However, while hope blossomed within her heart, shadows lingered on the horizon. How could one teacher bring children from nearby areas when there were no families left in town? Where would she find supplies? Doubts whispered in her mind like echoes through empty rooms. Just when Eleanor's resolve began to waver under the weight of uncertainty, fate intervened on that chilly evening when Taji knocked on her door. His presence would soon challenge her fears and help ignite not just hope within herself but also potential for a community rebirth, one rooted in education that would transform both their lives forever in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Eleanor awoke each day to the quiet hum of the ghost town, where time seemed to stand still. The morning light filtered through the dusty windows, illuminating the remnants of a life once vibrant. Yet, despite the beauty of nature surrounding her and the promise of new beginnings, reality hit hard. Every moment she spent in this deserted place reminded her of the challenges she faced. The first obstacle was a lack of resources. Eleanor had brought only what she could fit into her car, a few books, some classroom supplies, and cherished personal items. She quickly realized that to create a schoolhouse, she needed materials that were nowhere to be found in the ghost town. There were no local stores or places to buy supplies, only abandoned buildings and cracked pavement framing her view. Determined not to let this setback stop her, Eleanor began searching for ways to gather what she needed. She scoured old homes for forgotten items that could be repurposed into teaching tools. A weathered piece of wood became a chalkboard, empty jars turned into storage for art supplies, and pages from abandoned books sparked ideas for lesson plans. Despite her creativity, the limits of what was available weighed heavily on her. Add to this challenge was the absence of community. Eleanor yearned for interaction and companionship but found herself surrounded by silence. There were no neighbors to chat with or children running about, the streets felt desolate, and every echo emphasized her solitude. While she poured her heart into reviving the schoolhouse dream, there were moments when loneliness crept in like an unwelcome shadow. Evenings became particularly difficult. As dusk settled over the ghost town, Eleanor would sit alone in her building, listening to the wind whistle through cracks in the walls, a haunting reminder that she was often alone in this endeavor. The thought of forging connections with others who shared her passion felt increasingly elusive. With no nearby families or children to teach, each passing day felt like a step further away from her dreams. She tried reaching out to nearby communities, but those efforts often ended in disappointment. Many places had their own struggles and weren't able or willing to help a lone teacher trying to restore life in a ghost town. Her attempts at building relationships left her feeling even more isolated as people seemed hesitant or unaware of what possibilities lay within their midst. Though Eleanor committed herself to creating an inviting environment for future students, she battled feelings of abandonment as bitter memories returned uninvited. After losing John, who had always been a source of support in any venture, navigating this new chapter felt daunting without him by her side. She longed for his encouragement, the gentle reminders that greatness could arise even from adversity. Yet amid these trials, days spent exploring faded streets inspired new ideas about rebuilding community spirit from scratch. Occasionally, even with all hardships weighing heavily on her heart, Eleanor would run across hints of life amidst decay, an old swing set rusting under a lonely tree or colorful flowers breaking through cracks in concrete reminded her that something beautiful could still grow here if given a chance. Each morning after those encounters served as fuel for perseverance, they helped convince Eleanor that perhaps hope wasn't lost entirely, it just needed nurturing back into existence alongside education's uplifting power. As exhaustion settled deeper within her bones from juggling multiple demands, daydreams entwined with pockets of frustration, she often turned towards those old stories about great teachers she cherished so dearly. They transported her back into classrooms filled with eager minds yearning for knowledge, the very essence that lit up every fiber of who she once was. Just then came a realization: if Eleanor truly wanted change within this ghost town, it wouldn't happen overnight or simply take shape through dreams alone. It required action and collaboration fueled by shared passions with others willing to join hands toward one common goal. And so began another chapter, one where vulnerability mingled elegantly with determination, a chapter where Eleanor sought not only supplies and students but also connections capable of rekindling flames long dimmed within deserted walls, eager for laughter once again echoing across its soil. One late afternoon, as the sun hung low in the sky, casting golden hues across the deserted streets of the ghost town, Eleanor noticed a figure in the distance. At first, it looked like a shadow against the vibrant backdrop of sunset, but as it drew closer, she could see that it was a man dressed in traditional Navajo attire. His presence was striking, tall and strong, with an air of quiet confidence that immediately captivated her. As he approached, Eleanor felt a mix of curiosity and nervousness. The man exuded wisdom from his deep-set eyes, which seemed to hold stories of the land itself. His long black hair flowed freely behind him, and he wore a necklace adorned with carved stones that glimmered in the fading light. He introduced himself as Taji, a warrior who traveled between nearby communities and trading posts. Eleanor's heart raced at meeting someone new after so much solitude. She invited him inside her building, a place that had been filled with dust and silence for too long. As they sat together amid remnants of forgotten days, Taji's calm demeanor made her feel at ease. They exchanged pleasantries before Eleanor hesitantly shared bits about her life, how she had moved to the ghost town hoping to create a schoolhouse for children who might someday come. Listening intently, Taji nodded in understanding. "Education is sacred," he said, his voice low yet firm. Eleanor could tell he spoke from experience. There was an innate respect for knowledge in his words that resonated deeply with her own beliefs about teaching. Curiosity sparked between them as Taji recounted tales of his people, their history, traditions, and their own struggles to preserve their culture amid changing times. He painted vivid pictures with his words about ceremonies held under starlit skies and lessons learned from nature itself. For each story he shared, Eleanor felt more connected to him and inspired by his perspective on life. In turn, Eleanor spoke about her journey, her love for teaching and her dreams to revive joy within these deserted walls. Taji listened attentively as she described plans for colorful classrooms filled with laughter and learning. "You have great spirit," he said admiringly after hearing her hopes. It is not just about bricks or books, it is about lighting fires within young minds. Their conversations grew deeper each time they met. As days passed into weeks, Eleanor found herself looking forward to Taji's visits more than anything else in this quiet town. He brought fresh air into her world, reminding her that connection still existed beyond loneliness. One sunny afternoon, while exploring together outside the ghost town's perimeter, Taji pointed towards the rugged landscape stretching out before them. "This land tells stories if you listen closely," he remarked thoughtfully as they gazed at wildflowers blooming amidst rocky terrain. In those moments under wide-open skies filled with promise, Eleanor realized how much she craved companionship, not just from any person, but someone who understood her struggles. Taji began sharing more ideas about education drawn from Navajo culture, teaching through storytelling rather than solely relying on textbooks, engaging children through hands-on experiences, weaving life lessons into every lesson plan. Each concept resonated within Eleanor's heart like pieces falling perfectly together into a puzzle she hadn't known was missing. With each passing day spent alongside Taji, the generous warrior, her hope began to flourish like springtime blossoms breaking through winter's grip. She no longer felt alone in this endeavor but rather supported by newfound friendship rooted deeply within shared passions. As they talked late into evenings over flickering oil lamps surrounded by shadows dancing across walls, a tapestry woven from dreams now alive, Eleanor felt grateful not just for Taji's presence but also for how their bond became a bridge connecting past pains with bright possibilities waiting ahead. Through their growing friendship and mutual respect for education as transformative power came another realization: rebuilding this ghost town wouldn't rely solely on physical structures or resources. It demanded unity born from understanding diverse cultures woven together by threads of hope shared across generations, a legacy worth nurturing side by side under starlit skies once again. As Eleanor and Taji settled into their newfound friendship, their conversations grew richer and more profound. Each visit felt like uncovering a treasure trove of experiences and dreams, woven together by the threads of their pasts. They would often sit outside under the vast sky, the stars twinkling above them like scattered diamonds, as they shared stories that shaped who they were. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Taji began to recount tales from his childhood. He spoke of life on the Navajo reservation, where he learned from his grandfather about the land's history and traditions. "Every rock has a story," he said thoughtfully, "and every breeze carries whispers of our ancestors." His eyes sparkled with passion as he described how his people preserved their culture through storytelling, passing down lessons from generation to generation. Eleanor listened intently, captivated by his words. She shared her own background, explaining how she had grown up in a small town where education was cherished. "I always wanted to be a teacher because I believed knowledge could change lives," she explained. "But after losing my husband, I felt like I lost that purpose too." Taji's understanding gaze encouraged her to continue, and she spoke of her dreams for the schoolhouse, creating a space filled with laughter and learning where children could thrive. As they exchanged dreams for the future, Taji expressed his desire to foster a sense of community among those living nearby. "Education is not just about books but also about bringing people together," he said earnestly. "My dream is to create a place where children can learn not only academics but also respect for nature and each other." Eleanor's heart swelled at his vision. It mirrored her own hopes for building connections within the ghost town. They discussed practical ideas for teaching, how Taji envisioned using storytelling as a central part of education. "Children remember stories far longer than facts," he explained passionately. He proposed integrating traditional Navajo tales into lesson plans to teach values such as kindness, bravery, and respect for the earth. Eleanor nodded vigorously in agreement. She understood how powerful stories could be in helping children learn about themselves and their world. As days turned into weeks, their discussions continued to evolve. They delved into what a classroom could look like, not just filled with desks and chairs but vibrant with art and nature. Taji suggested incorporating outdoor learning experiences where children could explore the land while discovering science firsthand. "Nature is our greatest teacher," he remarked one afternoon as they strolled through fields blooming with wildflowers. Eleanor envisioned colorful murals adorning the walls of her future schoolhouse, artwork created by local children depicting both their heritage and dreams for the future. Imagine if we had an art class where kids could express themselves freely, she mused excitedly. Taji smiled at her enthusiasm. It fueled both their imaginations further. They began brainstorming ways to engage families in the community too, organizing gatherings that would unite everyone in celebration of culture and education. Let's invite them for storytelling nights under the stars, Taji suggested with a twinkle in his eye. Eleanor loved the idea. They could share tales from their cultures and build connections among families who had long been disconnected. With every conversation shared between them came renewed hope, not just for Eleanor's dream of creating a schoolhouse but also for reviving life within this ghost town itself. Their bond strengthened with each story told as trust blossomed amid laughter beneath starlit skies. In these moments together, where words transformed into visions, their individual dreams began merging into something greater than either could have imagined alone, a dream rooted in community revival through education infused with respect for diverse cultures, a legacy built on understanding rather than differences. As summer days flowed gracefully into warmer evenings filled with promise, a new chapter unfolded not just for Eleanor or Taji but for all who would one day find themselves woven together within this tapestry of lives eager to embrace change alongside growth, a foundation ready to bloom brightly against all odds standing before them. One warm afternoon, as Eleanor and Taji strolled through the ghost town, they paused to take in the surrounding landscapes. The sun illuminated the remnants of the once bustling community, now reduced to crumbling buildings and empty streets. Taji turned to Eleanor, his expression thoughtful. "This place has potential," he said, gesturing to the dilapidated structures. "It's not just abandoned land, it's a canvas waiting for new life." Eleanor's heart raced with excitement at his words, recognizing the spark of possibility that she had longed for. "What do you mean?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "I believe a schoolhouse could be built here," Taji proposed, his voice steady. "A place dedicated to education that can draw in children from nearby areas. It can be a beacon of hope for families seeking connection and learning." Eleanor was taken aback by the idea. "A schoolhouse?" "In this ghost town," she replied, disbelief mixing with excitement. "But where would we even begin? There are no resources or people." "Exactly," Taji interrupted gently, "but that's where we become the change. We can bring people together, Eleanor. A schoolhouse could not only teach children but also revive the spirit of this town. It can be more than just bricks, it can represent unity, culture, and shared knowledge." His vision resonated deep within Eleanor. As a teacher, she understood the profound impact education had on children and communities. Yet, envisioning a schoolhouse in such a deserted place felt daring and daunting. "But how will we gather the materials?" she asked hesitantly. "And how can we encourage families to send their children here?" Taji smiled knowingly. "Once we have a plan, we will invite the community to help us build it," he replied. "People need to see the promise in this place again. We can organize gatherings and start storytelling nights to draw families in, showcasing what this school can offer." Eleanor nodded, imagining it vividly, the laughter of children filling once silent streets, vibrant murals decorating walls, and families coming together to share stories under a starlit sky. "What would we teach?" she asked, intrigued by the possibilities unfolding before her. "With your passion for education and my cultural knowledge," Taji explained, "we can create an environment where children learn not just subjects but also respect for the land and each other. We can integrate stories passed down through generations with lessons that inspire creativity and critical thinking." Eleanor felt a surge of hope. The idea of teaching children about kindness through traditional tales or exploring science through nature resonated deeply within her. Imagine how empowering it will be for them. They won't just learn facts, they will understand their own identities and find pride in their heritage. As they continued walking, brainstorming transformed into an enthusiastic discussion filled with plans and dreams. They spoke of how to decorate the schoolhouse with artwork created by local children, making each student feel valued and represented. Taji shared ideas about outdoor classes where students could engage with nature firsthand, a powerful way to learn science while nurturing a love for the earth. Days turned into weeks as Eleanor and Taji worked hand in hand to bring their vision to life. They organized community meetings under the open sky, inviting anyone willing to join their quest for revitalization. News spread quickly about their dreams for the schoolhouse, a dream not just for education but for a united future. Slowly but surely, families began to show interest. Some came out of curiosity, others arrived inspired by the stories Taji shared that blended knowledge with tradition. Eleanor's heart swelled with gratitude as she saw faces brighten with excitement about what they could accomplish together. With each meeting filled with laughter, planning sessions that ignited determination, and connections being forged under the sun's warmth, they began rallying support and gathering materials from both near and far. People started donating old books, colorful paints, and other needed supplies as enthusiasm grew. As bricks were laid for their dream schoolhouse and walls took shape under smiling hands, Eleanor realized how transformative this journey had become, not just for her but for everyone involved. Together with Taji and their newfound community, they were not merely building a structure, they were constructing a future filled with hope and purpose for generations yet unborn. This was just the beginning, not only of a schoolhouse but of hearts intertwining within a community eager to breathe life into every once abandoned corner, ready to embrace change while honoring their past. With the vision of a schoolhouse firmly planted in their hearts, Eleanor and Taji set out to gather the materials necessary for making it a reality. Their first task was to search through the remains of the ghost town for anything that could be salvaged. Armed with determination and a few borrowed tools, they began exploring the dilapidated structures that surrounded them. Eleanor led the way through an old hardware store, its shelves long untouched by time. Dust motes danced in the sunlight streaming through cracked windows as they rummaged through boxes filled with rusty nails and faded paint cans. "This could work," she exclaimed, holding up a can of vibrant blue paint. Taji grinned, impressed by her enthusiasm. "Every color tells a story," he said thoughtfully. "We can use this to brighten our classrooms." Together, they collected whatever supplies they could find, wood planks from broken furniture, discarded windows, and even some old books that had seen better days. As they worked side by side, their bond grew stronger. They discussed not only their plans for the schoolhouse but also shared laughter over small mishaps, like when Taji accidentally tripped over a loose board and landed in a pile of dust. "I guess I'm part of the building now," he joked, causing Eleanor to burst into laughter. After gathering supplies from around town, they faced their first real challenge: how to transport everything back to their main site without proper vehicles. The old truck that had been left behind in the ghost town had long since broken down. After brainstorming solutions, Taji proposed using a wagon he had seen in one of the nearby abandoned buildings. It took hours to clean and restore the wagon, but finally, they managed to hitch it up with ropes tied from Taji's horse. "I never thought I'd be so grateful for old junk," Eleanor said with a smile as they piled up their finds onto the wagon. The journey back was filled with excitement but also challenges. Uneven terrain made steering difficult and at times threatened to spill their precious cargo. Still, they managed, laughing and encouraging each other as they navigated obstacles along the way. Once at their construction site, however, reality quickly set in again. They had materials but no clear plan on how to build a structure sturdy enough for children and capable of lasting through seasons ahead. Eleanor felt her confidence waver as she surveyed the scattered supplies. "What if we can't do this?" she murmured under her breath. Taji sensed her hesitation and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Together we can solve any problem." He suggested taking a step back and sketching out ideas for what their schoolhouse could look like on paper first before moving forward with construction. Inspired by his words, Eleanor grabbed some scrap wood and started drawing lines across its surface. A makeshift blueprint began taking shape before them. With Taji's guidance rooted in traditional techniques he'd learned as a child alongside his grandfather, they formulated plans that blended both innovative ideas from Eleanor's teaching background with respect for natural elements around them. As weeks passed filled with hard work under sweltering sun or occasional rain showers threatening progress, setbacks were inevitable: rotting timber found in one structure, other pieces proving too short after cutting down, or battling against unpredictable weather patterns hampering progress were just some hurdles they faced. Yet each time an obstacle arose, a new problem, they didn't allow it to break their spirits. Instead, it became fuel for creative problem-solving sessions shared between them during evenings spent crafting solutions under twinkling stars overhead or chatting about future plans while sipping herbal tea brewed together from wild plants nearby. Their teamwork flourished. Where one faltered, another encouraged perseverance. Their bond deepened further by sharing dreams mingled alongside frustrations met head-on together. Community members started witnessing this dynamic duo working tirelessly and began joining them. Families arrived offering support, with children eagerly wanting to help paint or hammer nails into walls, forming shapes resembling doors. With every successful nail-driven home or wall erected came renewed motivation surging within not just Eleanor's heart but within those surrounding her too. Everyone believed once again that change was possible. As bricks rose higher than before against an azure sky promising brighter days ahead, all doubts faded away like shadows retreating before dawn's light. The dream transformed from mere sketches on paper into tangible structure, readying itself soon enough, welcoming future generations. Eager learning ignited under care, woven gently throughout walls built strong alongside stories shared amidst laughter echoing throughout every corner, fostered friendships revived among neighbors who once felt estranged yet now blossoming anew together, unified purpose standing proudly within this revived ghost town, anchored firmly amid hope, glowing brightly against all odds still standing before them. As news of Eleanor and Taji's schoolhouse project spread through the ghost town, a sense of excitement began to awaken among the locals. Families who had long lost touch came out of their homes, drawn by a renewed sense of purpose and curiosity about what was happening in their forgotten community. They gathered at the construction site one sunny morning, chatting among themselves with cautious optimism. In the background, children peeked from doorways, eyes wide with wonder at the prospect of a school. The laughter that had rarely been heard amidst the silence of the ghost town started to bubble up as they ran toward where Eleanor and Taji were crafting plans for their new adventure. Eleanor stood at the front of a small crowd, her heart racing as she saw familiar faces joining them. There was Mrs. Martinez, an elderly woman who had once taught music in the town, Mr. Thompson, who had once managed the general store, and even the children she'd seen playing by a dried-up creek. As she looked into warm eyes filled with hope, she felt an unexpected rush of energy. This was not merely her project anymore, it was becoming everyone's. Taji stepped forward, introducing himself to those who had arrived. "Together we can create something special," he declared, his voice clear and resonant against the silent backdrop of the ghost town. "This schoolhouse will be a place for our children to learn but also for us to reconnect." Mrs. Martinez smiled widely at Taji's words, suddenly feeling inspired after years of quiet. "I can help with music classes," she exclaimed cheerfully, her spirit revitalized as she realized she would play a role in nurturing young talents once more. "Perhaps we can have art lessons too," suggested a younger mother named Alice who had been quietly watching from the back. "I know some tricks to teach kids how to paint," she added earnestly. Responses rolled in like waves as more community members chimed in with ideas and offers for help. Mr. Thompson proposed organizing a bake sale to raise funds for supplies, while others volunteered to host barbecues or potlucks to provide food for workdays at the construction site. With each offering, Eleanor's heart swelled with gratitude. Their excitement was infectious, and she quickly found herself discussing ways that everyone could contribute to the schoolhouse project. Together, they brainstormed how elements of their own experiences could enrich the children's education, drawing on local histories, traditions, and skills that could enhance learning in ways they had never imagined before. The days turned into weeks, and slowly but surely the small group grew larger as more locals joined in, forming teams for various tasks, from gathering materials to helping paint walls and decorate classrooms. Children giggled and played around men as they hammered nails into frames or carried buckets of paint. New friendships formed while adults rekindled connections sparked by shared labor and common goals. There were still setbacks along the way. Harsh weather occasionally interrupted progress and resources sometimes fell short. Yet when challenges arose, the community rallied together even stronger. Each person became a problem solver, eager to lend an extra hand or shoulder some weight together. One afternoon, as Taji worked alongside Eleanor to sketch ideas for an outdoor learning space filled with gardens and native plants, he turned to her thoughtfully. "Look at what we're building, not just walls from wood but connections between families that ripple through this land," he mused. Eleanor smiled wide. "You're right. Every beam we lay holds more than structure, it cradles memories yet to come. The laughter mixed with hard work created a tapestry woven together by effort. She felt its warmth encompassing them all. As it became clear that this wasn't just about creating a school but about revitalizing relationships hidden amidst years gone by, Eleanor cherished seeing strangers becoming friends. Words of encouragement echoed alongside hammers against wood, positive reflection spun from long-held regrets or indifference began fading away like shadows giving way to sunlight streaming through half-erected walls growing taller each day. Soon enough onlookers transformed from hesitant observers gazing wistfully into hopeful participants connected deeply by purpose united towards nurturing future generations, a vision steadily taking root, strong enough to blossom across every corner within this recently forgotten town awaiting laughter around its crescendo harmonies once more. The dream of a schoolhouse symbolizing their unity became realized, a testament forged from collective efforts threaded seamlessly with hopes revived under bright skies where families had begun once again coming together, embraced firmly amid possibility blooming brightly against all odds standing before them. The day of the grand opening had arrived, and the atmosphere in the ghost town was electric with excitement. Sunlight poured over the newly built schoolhouse, illuminating its vibrant walls painted by eager hands from the community. Colorful murals depicting local wildlife, swirling patterns inspired by Navajo art, and playful images of children learning adorned the exterior, symbolizing a bright future. As the clock struck 10, families began to gather outside the schoolhouse, laughter and chatter filling the air. Children dashed about, their faces painted with joy as they ran to greet friends they hadn't seen in months. Eleanor stood at the entrance, her heart swelling with pride as she watched neighbors arrive, people who had once felt distant now coming together under a shared purpose. Taji joined her, his presence a calming force amidst the bustling energy. "This is it," he said, his eyes shining with hope. "Look at how far we've come together." Eleanor nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. The moment felt monumental. They were not just opening a school but igniting a new chapter for the entire community. As more guests trickled in, Mrs. Martinez set up a small stage decorated with flowers and handmade banners that read "Welcome to our school." Children helped arrange benches while adults chatted excitedly about what this new space would mean for their families. It was clear that this day marked more than an educational milestone, it represented unity and healing. Eleanor stepped onto the stage to address the crowd. Nervousness fluttered in her stomach, but as she looked out at the smiling faces, neighbors, children, and friends, she found her voice. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steadying with each word. "This schoolhouse is not just a building, it's a dream we all share, a place where our children can learn and grow together." Applause erupted from the audience, and Eleanor felt warmth spread through her heart. She continued, "With this school, we will honor our pasts while shaping our future. Together, we will create a vibrant community filled with knowledge and creativity." As she finished speaking, Taji stepped up beside her. He raised his arms in a welcoming gesture. "Today we celebrate not only education but also friendship and family," he added. "Let us fill these walls with laughter and stories that will echo through generations." The crowd cheered once more, their enthusiasm palpable as they prepared for the ceremony's next phase, the ribbon cutting. Eleanor and Taji took their places at the front of the schoolhouse, where a large ribbon adorned with colorful streamers awaited them. With a pair of scissors in hand, Taji smiled at Eleanor before giving her a nod of encouragement. Together, they counted down from 3 and snipped through the ribbon in one swift motion. Cheers broke out as families clapped and shouted joyfully. The sound of celebration echoed throughout the ghost town like a melody reborn. Once inside, the schoolhouse buzzed with energy as families explored the classrooms filled with supplies gathered from their hard work together, books on shelves waiting to be opened, art supplies ready to inspire creativity, and comfortable corners for storytelling sessions awaited eager minds. Children rushed to claim their favorite spots while parents marveled at how much love had gone into creating this space. Laughter bounced between walls that had long stood silent as connections rekindled in every corner. The day continued with activities planned for everyone. Storytelling sessions led by Mrs. Martinez brought music alive once again. Taji organized outdoor games teaching respect for nature while instilling teamwork, and Alice guided children in painting murals that would decorate their classrooms as they expressed themselves freely. As dusk began to settle over the horizon, families gathered outside under twinkling stars sprinkled across an indigo sky. The warm glow of lanterns illuminated smiling faces sharing stories, new friendships formed over shared aspirations and dreams for brighter tomorrows. Eleanor stood on the porch watching it all unfold, the laughter spilling into the night air was like music to her ears. At that moment, she realized that they had created something beautiful, a place where education thrived alongside community spirit, a sanctuary rooted deep within their shared histories yet reaching boldly towards futures filled with possibility. The grand opening was not merely an event, it marked a significant turning point for lives intertwined beneath this new roof, a testament to resilience amid challenges faced with unity shining brightly against all odds stacked before them, a true embodiment of hope rekindled in every heart present that day. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the ghost town, Eleanor stepped outside the schoolhouse to take in the transformation that had unfolded before her eyes. The once silent streets were now alive with chatter and laughter, filled with families who had come together not just to celebrate the opening of this new educational space but to reclaim a sense of community that had long been dormant. Eleanor stood quietly, reflecting on the journey that had led her here. She remembered her initial arrival in the ghost town, burdened by grief and searching for solace. The echoes of her past had haunted her, leaving her feeling lost and isolated. But now, as she looked around at the smiling faces of her neighbors, friends who had unified under a common purpose, she felt an incredible warmth enveloping her heart. Taji joined her outside, leaning against the school's vibrant wall adorned with murals that reflected their shared dreams. "Look at what we've created," he said softly, his eyes glimmering with pride. "This is a place where children will learn, where stories will be shared, and where connections will grow." Eleanor nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose blossom within her. "We didn't just build a school," she replied thoughtfully. "We built a community. I can't believe how far we've come together." As they watched children run into the building, excitedly claiming their spots in classrooms filled with art supplies and books, Eleanor was reminded of how much she had changed alongside the town. No longer was she the grieving widow overwhelmed by loss, she had become a beacon of hope and inspiration for others, cultivating an environment where dreams could thrive once more. The transformation extended beyond Eleanor, it echoed through every corner of the community. Families who had once felt disconnected were now united in support of their children's education. Mrs. Martinez had rediscovered her love for teaching music, while Mr. Thompson rekindled friendships he thought were lost forever. Even Alice, who had initially hesitated to join in, found herself organizing art classes, excitedly guiding children in self-expression. Eleanor felt a swell of gratitude as she recalled the moments that sparked this revival, the brainstorming sessions under starlit skies, the laughter shared while painting walls, and the determination that fueled them through challenges. Each encounter deepened their bonds, transforming strangers into friends united by resilience and hope. As the evening grew darker and lanterns flickered to life, illuminating the schoolhouse with a warm glow, Eleanor sensed that they stood on the cusp of something extraordinary. This wasn't merely about education, it was about nurturing relationships and weaving together different cultures to create a richer tapestry for future generations. Taji turned to Eleanor, sensing her deep reflection. "We've done more than build a school, we've woven our lives together," he remarked. "This place is a testament to what happens when people come together with love and purpose." Eleanor smiled at him, heart brimming with appreciation for his wisdom and guidance throughout their journey. "You're right. We've created a legacy, a space that honors our past while reaching out towards a brighter future." The sounds of laughter filtered through the open windows as families shared stories and dreams under the stars. It was an atmosphere filled with joy and connection, a stark contrast to the loneliness that had once pervaded the ghost town. Children excitedly explored their new classrooms, while parents mingled outside, sharing hopes for what their children could achieve within these walls. As Eleanor looked up at the starry sky, she realized this moment represented more than just an opening day, it symbolized healing and renewal, both for herself and for the community she had grown to love so dearly. They were bound together by shared experiences, filled with purpose and belonging in ways they never thought possible. The schoolhouse stood as a beacon of hope amid the vast landscape, a vibrant reminder that even in places once marked by silence and abandonment, life could flourish anew. Eleanor felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had found not only a new beginning but also a family among those she had once considered strangers. In that magical moment under twinkling stars, Eleanor knew their journey would continue, one filled with growth, laughter, and learning as they faced whatever lay ahead together, stronger than ever before.